Hello, everyone. Welcome to this live today. It is an absolutely glorious day here in Stavanger in Norway. And I just want to share that, we are not very spoiled when it comes to having beautiful, warm weather like 24, 25 degrees. Today is such a day. And I said, right, when I've done this live, I committed to doing this live. I'm going to go straight out again and enjoy this beautiful, beautiful weather. So wherever you are, I hope that you are also enjoying, having a beautiful day. And still, whether you are watching this live, being here with me, co-creating a conversation with me, or whether you are watching the replay, I love to hear from you. So please just put in the chat, maybe where are you listening in from? I always love to see where are you. And the topic today is the 5 biggest mistakes energy companies make when attracting female leaders. And this is a topic that is quite heavily discussed these days. It's a conversation I have with Lean and Equity and Sustainability, an organization that I am a co-founder of. It is also a conversation that is taking place with organizations that my company Sustainability is working with, helping them to implement good, powerful diversity, equity, and inclusion strategies and to act upon their policies. And it's also something that is being brought up in Next Level Purpose Mastermind that I'm running, and with my clients. Basically, yes, we all know that there is a big need for having more female leaders into organizations, and yet there are mistakes that is being done by organizations. And today I'm particularly focusing on energy, and even more so focusing in on oil and gas. A statement that the co-founder, my colleague and co-founder, Lean and Equity, always says is that there is a huge mistake that is like we don't know even where to start, and that is lack of female representation on the top. And when there's a lack of representation on the top already, as women, we automatically read into this as, well, if I can't see it, if I can't see anyone like me, and that doesn't just go for women, that goes for diversity in general. If I can't see anyone that feels like myself here, it seems that this organization is old-fashioned, they are not moving along, and there's absolutely probably zero opportunities for me to actually climb into the highest level of influence and leadership within this organization. So that's where we're starting. It's like, if you can't see it, lack of female representation in itself is pretty off-putting. So, but anyway, that is what it is. And what I want us to do today is to look into one of the McKinsey reports. There are 2 reports that I would invite you to look in on, and that is Boston Consulting Group and WPC's report called Untapped Reserves. There was one in 2017. There was another follow-up in 2021. And then there is one that I'm looking a bit at today. That is McKinsey's 2019 report that's focusing on the oil and gas industry. What I want to first kick off with is what research tells us. And research tells, and I'm going to kind of read that from the notes here from McKinsey. It says, according to McKinsey, research tells us that companies that have a significant share of female leaders outperform their peers. So let's repeat this again. Energy companies, or any oil and gas companies, or any organizations at all that have a significant share of female leaders outperform their peers. Now, if that isn't good for business, I don't know what is. I still experience working with organizations that want to become more diverse, and yet inside this kind of leadership, I hear, yeah, but is it really proven that it's good for business? Isn't this just some hype thing? Well, research put that to rest immediately. So let's wake up, everyone. It's good for business to do this, have female representation. The other thing is that the oil and gas industry in particular have a huge problem. And the problem is aging. There is an aging generation that is the representation in leadership. I mean, look at organizational charts. You are very often, the majority of times, seeing gray-haired men, and we know that that group is now about to retire, and we have a gap, a massive gap. And women is a resource that is so important in this, to go in and actually take on, to move leadership forward. Because the second problem there is, so we have retirement, we have the complete lack of female representation. That is the solution in this. But then we also have the other one, and that is that the industry doesn't attract young talents anymore. It's interesting to see that just a decade ago, the oil and gas industry was perceived as the 14th ranking industry that young people really wanted to work in. That was it, right? 14. Do you know what it is now? Do you know where the oil and gas industry is today when it comes to younger generations, the future of the industry? 35th place. 35th place. So we are talking about the future of an industry that is needed, yet there is a lot of reason why the oil and gas industry don't attract the younger generations. So on top of not being able to attract younger generation, we also have an untapped reserve already there that is not being used. So there is a lot of things that has to be done. Also knowing that we know that in senior leadership, we have of SVP, only 1 in 8 has female representation of SVP, or senior vice presidents. And only 1 in 10 is in C-suite, right? That is scary. That's really scary. And according to this McKinsey report from 19, and there might be some shifts, and I know that there will be differences from maybe one country to another, but the average number of women, or percentage of women in the industry, is only 15%. So we're already seeing that there is a little pool to really harvest from. What we in sustainability have experienced, and this is also what McKinsey was talking about in the report, and that was of the 250 companies that they surveyed in this research, of 250 companies, half of them did not have 1 woman in top management. Not 1 woman in top management. And only 1/3 had 1 woman in top management. Right? So that is the same thing that we see in sustainability when we're working with organizations and we're starting to say, hey, all right, let's look at the organizational chart here. What impresses us here? Well, and I have to say, what really is impressive is the glaring missing of female representation. That is the first thing that very often shows up. And then we have other diversities as well, very often showing up. And that has to change if the industry is going to move into the future. Now, what are the 5 biggest mistakes then that energy companies make when attracting female leadership? The first one is lack of awareness. Again, even you watching this live today, if you were to ask yourself, what is the female representation in the organization I work for? Maybe you're a leader yourself. What number of female leaders, top leaders, do you have, if any? if you were thinking about the percentage of female representation overall in your organization, do you know the percentage? Like, do we know? That is the actually starting point. We need to understand our numbers. The second thing is our organization in the frame of mind that we are ready to think, how do we attract diversity? Now I'm saying diversity because it's not just women, it's not just by gender, but it's also diversity of thoughts, diversity in lived experiences. Because one of the biggest awareness gaps that we see, at least here in sustainability, what we see is a big lack in organizations, is that they don't understand how they are preventing the company to embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion. There's a lack of understanding of mindset within the organization. There isn't an understanding of what unconscious biases are operating within the organization. So we want to step in and ask certain questions when we are looking for different talents. When we want to have women leaders, we want to ask, are we looking for someone that is part of expanding our horizon? Are we looking for someone that is an add-on to this current culture that can move this culture forward? Or do we fall into this trap that we're looking for somebody to fit in with our current culture? Because when we're doing that, is the lack of this awareness that leads us very often to have the same person, the same profile that we've always had, and then we're ending up with the same style. We like the style because it feels familiar, it's homey, right? Now, that is where we need to create more awareness. We need to check in and understand, is our organization mature enough for diversity? What kind of maturity do we have? And this is where we very often will measure the maturity level within an organization by using the NG Leadership Index assessment, which is an attitudinal assessment where we see what are their blind spots in an organization that is holding them back because they're believing lies. So that's what we go in and measure, and that type of awareness is needed to 10x the process of getting women into leadership positions, but also other types of diversity. The second mistake, I'm just looking at my notes here. The second mistake is, and this is brutal. This is really brutal. It is to eliminating potential candidates through having specifications or requirements that narrow the pool down to single-digit possibilities. Now, think about that. If you are looking to fill an executive position, you're looking for a new EVP, you are looking for someone in C-suite, and you are saying that some of the criteria here is that you need to have X number of years experience from a similar position. And I just shared with you that it's just 1 in 10 position that is taken in C-suite of women, that there's only 1 in 8 SVPs that are women. You start to understand that it's already pretty challenging to find even candidates by saying that this is the experience you need to have in order to get on. Even if we just have it that it's not a must, but it's nice to have. Remember, as women, we tend to say we need to check all 10 boxes. Well, now we don't check the box of nice to, and we also look at the organization saying, oh, this organization doesn't have a history of really embracing female leaders because there are no female leaders. So what's the point? So what we really need to do is to look at the criteria in the job position and see what needs to be removed. What new questions do we want to ask to see what are we really looking for when we're talking about you need to have X number of years in C-suite. I mean, what does that even mean? I never come across people in C-suite that have been terrible leaders. Yeah, they have it on this CV, but seriously, I would never hire them. So we need to get out of that thinking and think broader and think about what is the contribution we were looking for. The third mistake is related to the second mistake, because the third mistake is being risk averse. And this is interesting. This was actually a comment from on LinkedIn from one of my contacts, where she basically was talking about how we could see how supportive organizations are towards men of going out and take risk, but women are never received the same opportunity. And this was about the shale bonanza. You know, we saw so many men becoming millionaires really fast, and doors were open, whereas women wasn't even considered to have any doors being open. And one of the things that we see is that there is this assumption that women are risk averse, a lie that so many are believing, including women. Women also tend to think of other women that, oh, but they are not, they don't take that much risk. This is, let me say, BS. It's complete BS. Women take a high level of risk. Just think about pregnancy. Just think about a lot of things. We take a lot of risk. The fact is, organizations are risk averse. Organizations are so keen on having the same profile for positions that they don't dare taking risk of something that looks different to themselves or look different to their existing culture within the organization. That is not daring to take risk. So this is something I always challenge organizations on. Are you really ready to take on risk? Risk on stepping into something that might feel unknown. We don't have control over all these elements. Are you willing? Because that is one thing an organization must be willing to take risk when it's going to grow the number of female leaders within the organization. And the reason we call it risk is just that women come with a different way of thinking. Is the organization ready for that? Is it? Again, I invite you all to just go back and think about your own organization. Does it seem to take risk in any capacity when it comes to people who are different background? Or is it safe? If you look at your organizational chart, is it safe? So that's where I want to challenge organizations out here. I want to challenge you. If you say that you're so good, you're taking risk, calculated risk. Yes, we talk about a lot of risk management, we talk risk mitigation, but it seems that to me that a lot of the risk mitigation we are working on here is to prevent new thinking to sit around the leadership table. And remember, diversity is not just gender diversity. We are also talking about diversity in lived experiences, right? We are talking about upbringing, backgrounds, things that is vital today in order to bring companies into the new world, to meet the younger generation where diversity and inclusion is a part of their game. This is how they operate. So that third mistake is being risk averse. The fourth mistake is something that we are working a lot with in lean and equity and sustainability. Think about this. If you need a candidate now, if you are looking to hire somebody within your executive leadership, are you starting to look for female candidates now? You are starting far too late. Seriously? You're in the game for a long time. Think long-term thinking. Think, what do we do today to change the profile, the landscape of our leadership and an executive group now in 10 years? What do we do today, right? It's not just hiring now. It is to show up and see to how do we create relationship? How do we understand what female leaders are really looking for? And one of the ways you can do is to participate participate in uh, events and conferences that are female led, female leadership events. It can be women in engineering, women in STEM. Pay close attention to women, female speakers that are talking technical stuff. Pay attention to women in panel discussions. Create a connection. Hear them out. It's all about building relationships. And for women, because it is so difficult to get into a position that really influence, a woman, first of all, the woman that you're seeking most definitely is already in the position. So you're looking for a woman who's already in the position, who has maybe worked a long time to come to where she is. The only thing that might make her think, I'm curious to see if I should take this opportunity, is when she feels there is no longer an opportunity within the organization she's working with to step into C-suite, to be CFO, to be CEO, to be CTO, CPO, that there is like, that is out of my league. If your organization hasn't communicating its willingness and openness that this is what it is, in EVP, we're also always looking for the next level of C-suite. We're always looking for the next C-suite candidate and these opportunities. If you are not willing to go in that and hold that conversation, again, you're losing out. But these kind of conversations are built over time. They're building trust. So organizations that we are working here in sustainability is that we very often are being contacted when there is difficulties to find a candidate. That's when we say, you know what, this is almost too late. So, but we're going to help you out here. But this is, you want to start with the future in mind. You want to look at your organizational chart and you say, what will it take today to change this picture in 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, and do today the work, right? So that is a very important thing. The fifth mistake is companies tend to pigeonhole female leaders at the senior management level to softer roles, meaning HR, communication, sustainability, DEI. These roles are the ones that is very often thinking that's easier to get a woman into. This is where we're also going wrong. We want more women into highly technical leadership roles to change the paradigm in thinking also on the technical aspect. We want them in finance, geology, engineering. We want a broad representation. One thing that strikes me is, as an example, in the finance, what we do know in oil and gas is that there is actually a lot of women working in the finance department. But how many has a female CFO? Huh? So here, organizations even have a pool and are unable to attract women within their organization and vet them. I question this. I have to say, I seriously question that, which is an indicator that organizations are not necessarily paying enough attention to the young female talents coming in, paying attention, creating, giving them resources so that they can get the same opportunities as others. I know women who are scared, if you go out of kind of the line and you step into admin, you can't get back again. So this is another thing. When you're looking to hire female leaders, think about also your highly technical roles. Look at this in details. How are you preparing yourself for success of having more female executives in your top leadership and not just in under the softer skills? So these five areas, let me quickly recap what we're talking about. The first one is lack of awareness. We need to have more awareness. We need to have higher level of education from all levels within an organization when it comes to women and what women leaders and women in general bring to an organization on the bottom line in growth and expansion. That's what we really need. Second, we need to eliminate this uh, thinking that everyone needs to have X number of years experience in order to apply for this specific position. So if you're looking for an executive leadership, you don't have to look for somebody who has years of executive leadership. The question is, what is it that you wanted to contribute with that is so important that you're willing to step in and say, hey, you know what? We are going to look at this from a different angle, right? Look at that more. The third one is then take risk. Take risk on identifying what is it that you want the candidates to bring to the table without necessarily knowing how and necessarily having to see years of experience in the past. Take risk on bringing in the unknown, right? Be open. Think about this. Is it somebody who's going to match your current culture, or is it an added value that is going to expand your organization into the new world? 4, big mistake, you're starting the process when you're in need for a candidate. When it comes to getting anyone with a different background, anyone like a woman as well, you need to be where women are. You need to show that you're an ally. I mean, seriously, being an ally. This is not just like, oh, we are sponsoring something. No, this is, I'm an ally. What can I do for you? I want to open doors for you. Here is, welcome. Here is what I can do for you. So that is the 4th. And the 5th mistake is to look at female candidates and female leaders through the lens of only communication, sustainability, DEI, and HR. It's to broaden, really broaden. We need women in the technical areas of lead, because remember, we're talking about leadership here. So these are the 5 ones that I wanted to talk about. And you know, everything is really changing here. And the world is new. The world is looking for different things. So it's not what the organization wants anymore. It's what society is asking. It's what society is asking, what people are asking. You know, people, professionals, what are they asking? They want diversity. They want to feel a sense of, I recognize myself in here. It is to feel included, a sense of belonging. And we know that equity is an important part of that. Social, political, and technological forces are definitely changing the oil and gas industry. And it's changing it to a rate that no leader have ever experienced before. So it's just time to think completely different. To cope with the future of uncertainty and turmoil, we know turmoil is around us all time. We've gone through COVID. There are certain areas that are faced with recession. There is a lot of things going on in this world right now. Companies need new skills and type of talent. And women are there. Women is a big part of the solution. So I would love any comments below. I would love to connect with you. I would like to be in communication. And remember, For me, when I'm showing up on these lives, it is to co-create. It is to co-create. Yes, today it's a bit of a monologue right here, and I look forward to dive in and look at the comments and engage. So either you're watching this as a recording, or if you're being on live right now, comment below, let us connect. And if you're an organization that is looking to get help, support on your diversity, equity, and inclusion, just DM me. Let's have a conversation of how sustainability can help your organization to be mature, to grow DEI. DEI is a very important part of ESG. We know ESG is ultra important going forward. That is what investors are looking at. That is what the world on the outside is looking at. And DEI is a very important pillar under the S in ESG. So if you have any questions, if you would like to have a conversation with us, DM me and let's set up a call. All right. So with that, I wish you a beautiful, beautiful day.